Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s. Episode 6. We're past the halfway point now. Episode 6 of my Knitting through the 1800s series, in which I work my way through knitting patterns of the 1800s, one decade at a time. Behind me, or kind of next to me, you can see what we've done so far. We have a 90s vest, we have 80s kneecaps, a 70s bodice, a 60s bosom friend / Sonntag, and a 50s collar, which I'm wearing right now. Mainly because I'm filming this right after I filmed the review on the outro, but also because I like to put the things I've made so far here, and this doesn't really fit. So you can see it in action. This is what I made. I also made this bracelet, by the way. Now it's time for the 40s, and I think I did the same kind of stupid thing last year, or the year before. I think it was the year before already. In my Knitting for the 1900 series, I made gloves in summertime. So you can guess where this is going. Well, you've also seen the thumbnail and the title, so you know where this is going. I'm making mittens. And yes, when I'm filming this, it's April. So it's about to get really nice and warm, and I'm making warm mittens. So that's, yeah. I won't be getting a lot of wear out of this yet. I'm going to have to wait till the winter, but I am excited to make these mittens. I really struggle with finding patterns for kind of like the first half of the century, so from this point down, if that makes sense. 40s, 30s, 20s, 10s, 0s. It's really difficult. I have a pattern for the 40s and for the 30s. I haven't even found anything for the 20s and the 10s yet, and the 0s, so I need to find something. But my main issue is that most of the patterns I find are for either stockings or like blankets, a lot of baby stuff, and I don't have a baby. I was about to say I don't own a baby, but it sounds weird. I don't have a baby. I have friends with babies, but I don't think that they're looking for something Victorian for their child. Another thing I found was gigantic things like full-on petticoats, and that's not going to be done in time. So mittens it is. And in the wintertime, I wear gloves all the time anyway, so a pair of mittens will be very much appreciated. So for the pattern is just called Plain Mittens. Okay. And it's from a book called A Winter Gift for Ladies, being instructions in knitting, netting and crochet work. Interesting, crochet spelled with an extra T. Anyway, containing the newest and most fashionable patterns from the latest London edition. And the author is unknown. It just says revised and enlarged by an American lady. So we don't know who made this pattern, but all we know is that it's from an American lady. And this book is from 1848. Now for yarn, I actually am trying to kind of work my way through my yarn stash. So for this episode, the next episode, I've found yarn in my stash, which is great. I have this. I have 2 skeins of this black yarn. I think it's Drops Alpaca. Yeah, I think so. Anyway, I have 2 of these, which I will use for the main portion of the mittens, if that makes sense. Then I have another skein of Drops Alpaca. This time it's this wheat color. And I have this. This is White Drops Nord, I believe. My plan is to use these together for the ribbing, and I'm thinking to do half of the ribbing in this color and then the next half in this. I'll show you once I get to that point. So yeah, we're using stash yarn, which is great. Now for needles, I don't really know which size to use because the pattern is not very helpful in that sense. The needle size recommended for this yarn, I can still see on the label, is 3 millimeters. What I'm going to do is do some calculations because I need to cast on 24 stitches on 3 needles. So that's a total of 72 stitches. If I measure my wrist, I can figure out which gauge I need. And then I can see if it's the same as the gauge given here. I don't think it will be, but okay. Then I can use the recommended needle size. If not, I will just size down or up. Probably down, because this is Victorian knitting and it's done in teeny tiny needles. So yeah, I see that I've been talking for 8 minutes, which is way too long. So let's stop talking. I'm going to do a bunch of calculations and I'm going to figure out which needle size I need to use. And then I'll probably make a little swatch. And then I'm going to just start. I think I'm just going to do one mitten at a time. I was thinking of doing 2 at a time, but it's going to just be 1. And we need to start with, it says, knit 3 stitches and rip 3 throughout the round. I think they just mean it's a 3 by 3 rip. I think I'm going to do that. And then it says until you have done about 1 inch in depth. Or if you prefer it, you can rip the mitten all through. We're not going to do that. I don't prefer that. But I'm going to do that first. And like I said, I'm going to do half-half. So my plan is to, I'm just thinking about the order. Do I want it to be like this or like this? I think like this. So my plan is to work a 3 by 3 rip for 1/2 inch in this shade and then switch to this one. Do another 1/2 inch and then I can move on to work the rest of the mitten in black. Let's do it. So that is 1/2 inch. I'm now going to switch to this color and work another 1/2 inch of the ribbing, and then the ribbing is done. The ribbing is going actually much quicker than I thought it would, which is great because I don't enjoy ribbing. I'm excited to move on to working on the actual mitten. So let's work 1/2 inch of that and then we switch to black. I have finished the inch of ribbing. Why is it so overexposed? Well, it's sunny, we're gonna have to deal with it. Anyway, I finished the ribbing. I now need to start working on the main part of the mitten, and for that I need to switch to the black. And hang on, where are my instructions? Not here. I need to knit plain rather more than another inch. So I'm guessing knit stockinette for 1 inch. And then begin increasing for the thumb by making a stitch in the middle of a row. This stitch is made by taking up a stitch between 2 stitches. Then knit a plain round and then take up a stitch before the stitch you made and another after. So we're doing 2. Then I keep doing that every other round until I have 25 stitches for the thumb. So I find it interesting that it just say make a stitch in the middle of a row, just wherever you want it to be. It's also another row, it's a round, but okay. But yeah, it should be fairly simple, I guess. I'm just going to work the inch of stockinette first and then I'm going to start working on the thumb. But yeah, so far so good. No big issues yet. I finished 1 inch of the black stockinette. I don't know, I'm just a little unsure about whether I should have put in a lifeline. I kind of feel like I should have done a lifeline after I did the ribbing, because after switching to the stockinette, or I guess more like while I was switching to stockinette, I didn't have to change needle size or increase at all, so I don't know if it's going to fit right. I'm just going to keep going and we'll see. Maybe I have to go back and start over from the black part, but for now I'm just going to continue. I've also been just kind of writing down exactly what I've been doing so that I can make the second mitten the exact same. I like doing that whenever there's instructions like knit for 1 inch. I like to just count the rounds or rows and write it down so that I can do the exact same on the other item, I guess. So I've been writing down that I need to do 6 rounds of the white, 6 rounds of the wheat, and I've now done 15 rounds of the black stockinette. I am now going to increase for the thumb, and because the instruction is to just somewhere in the row, they say row, it's a round, but somewhere increase the stitch, I can kind of decide where I want that to be. So yeah, I'm just going to do that. It's just going to be a bunch of increases until I have 25 stitches for the thumb. We'll see, maybe I'll make it bigger, maybe not. I don't know, we'll see. So far so good, no issues yet, and yeah, let's hope it stays that way. Because we haven't had an issue-free episode yet, so it would be fun if we could get one. Famous last words. So I've done about half of the increases. Let me see where it is. Yeah, it's impossible to see because it's black. Anyway, you can tell though that it's kind of growing. I've also switched to larger or like longer needles because yeah, I was really living on the edge with the other needles. Stitches were constantly in danger of flying off the needles. So I've switched to longer ones, and yeah, it's still no issues. I'm going to keep working on the thumb increases, and then at some point we're going to have to just work on the thumb stitches. And when I'm working on that, I also have to try it on at some point to figure out how long I need the thumb to be. But for now, I'm going to keep increasing on the thumb until I have enough stitches. Well, I think the thumb is long enough now. I tried it on really quick. Let me show you what I did. Well, tried it on. I just did this, just to check. And I think we are good. Technically, the pattern now wants me to just cast off these stitches, but I'm going to do it slightly differently. I think I'm going to do a few rounds of just knitted togethers all the way around. I'm not sure how many yet. At some point I'm just going to cut off the yarn and just thread it through these stitches and just close it up that way, and then we'll have a nice finished thumb, and then we can move on to the rest of the mitten. But first I may do about, I don't know, 3 rounds of knitted togethers. That sounds like a good plan. Let's do that, and then we can finish this thumb and start working on the rest of the mitten. So after I finished the thumb, it was time to work on the main part of the mitten. So I rejoined the yarn to the remaining stitches and picked up some stitches at the base of the thumb, I guess, because otherwise that would just be a little gap there and you don't really want that. And then I thought the rest of the project would be stockinette, but no, it's not. I actually had to work 10 rounds of stockinette and after that switch to the original 3x3 rib that we started with and just do that until the mitten was long enough. So yeah, no stockinette mitten for me. It was 10 rounds of stockinette and then just ribbing all the way to the end. Okay, so far I've done, I don't think you can see. Anyway, I've done 10 rounds of ribbing. This is what it's looking like. I mean, it's black, so yeah, this is going to be impossible to see. Just believe me. But I just wanted to kind of try it on and see how far I actually am. Okay. So we've just covered up until here. We have not reached it. Well, we have just reached the fingers. So my estimate is that I'm going to have to do 40 more rounds of the ribbing. And then we should be at the fingers. So yeah. Going surprisingly well, actually. Let's finish this first mitten. So this is 50 rows or rounds and it's now long enough. So I can finish this. Now the pattern just wants me to cast off the stitches and finish it, I don't know, by sewing it close or something like that. There are no instructions. The only instructions are fasten off, that's it. What I'm going to do is something a little bit different. I want to work one round where I knit two together all the way around. And then I'm going to, I think, just thread the yarn tail through the remaining stitches and close it up that way. But yeah, it's looking a little bit strange because this is pretty wide and then this becomes really, really small. But I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting for sure. So yeah, let's just finish this first mitten. One mitten is done. It looks a little bit strange because of the ribbing at the top. Yeah, it's kind of a different shape, I guess, than normal mittens, but it does fit. Let me give you a little sneak preview. Here we are. I now need to make a second one, and that's just going to be the same as the first one. So it's not going to be that interesting, so I won't go into too much detail. So yeah, let's just quickly knit the second mitten, and then we can go to the final reveal and my final thoughts. It's I think this video is going to be pretty short because it's been going pretty well actually, no big issues. So yeah, it's probably going to be a shorter episode, but that's okay. I'm going to make the second mitten and then I'll see you again once it's done. My 1840s mittens are done. Right in the middle of a heat wave. So it's kind of ironic that I'm now wearing these gloves for this little reveal and outro. I will be taking them off very, very soon because it's about 38 degrees today. Not very mitteny weather. Did I just say gloves? I meant mittens. But yeah, I do think they are adorable. They are interesting. Especially when you don't wear them, because the kind of ribbing makes this little piece much smaller, so it looks kind of strange. But then once you put it on, it doesn't look strange anymore. And I do think they look really nice. I really like the little detail that I have around the cuff area here. So yeah, very happy with these. It was a pretty smooth process. I didn't really run into any issues. It was actually, I think, the easiest one I've done so far in the whole knitting for the 1800s and 1900s all combined. So I'm very happy. This has been great. Let's hope the other decades that we have left will be as smooth sailing. Probably not, because let's be honest, I've been struggling finding patterns for the 20s, 10s and the 0s, so there may not be any video at all, but that's a future me problem. I'm first going to take these mittens off, have a really cold drink, and then I need to move on to the next decade, the 1830s, which should be interesting. Anyway, I'm just going to end this here now. Feel free to subscribe so you don't miss out on the rest of the series. Thank you for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.